All right, we are Group 5, and we did our country report on Nigeria. The Federal Republic of Nigeria is Africa's most populous country with 190 million people. They speak over 500 different languages, with the main one being English, and they have 500 different ethnic groups, and we will get into those later in the PowerPoint. Nigeria was granted independence on October 1st, 1960. One of the big things in their history was the Biafran War from July 1967 to January 1970. This was caused by ethnic competitiveness, educational inequality, and economic imbalance. Today, Nigeria has been the victim of Islamic terrorist attacks over the past few years. For their government and judicial system, they have the presidential system like the U.S. with the three branches of government, those being legislative, executive, and judicial. They are currently on their fourth constitution since independence, and with the election of their current president, they have become more involved with their military.
To segue from the government's interaction and collection over the people, the press freedom score of Nigeria, which reflects the amount of control that the public sector has over the freedom of speech, they're equals of 53. The scale has 0 being the best, while 100 equals the worst. So therefore, press freedom here in Nigeria is only considered partially free. Segueing through that as well, the Corruption Perceptions Index, graphed here, measures how corruption is believed to exist within a country's public sector. These scores range from 0 to very high corruption to 100 no corruption. Nigeria's CPI averages at 20.17 points from 96 to 2016 and reached its peak of 28 in 2016 and a record low of 6.9 at its beginning. So this score indicates that there is a great deal of corruption occurring in the public sector of Nigeria.
So moving on to the Nigerian military and some political conflicts. Nigeria's military is one of the largest around the world. However, they do not use their military very effectively. They do not use enough time and spend a lot of time with training, so their soldiers are not very well prepared for battle. A lot of their allies, two of the main ones, are the U.S. and the United Kingdom. They rely heavily on the support of those two countries. One of their main enemies, and a lot of country's main enemy, is ISIS. They continue to battle that enemy today. And some other enemies that they have are some local militias within the country that fight against their government and fight against their military to enforce their own values and beliefs. And between ISIS and own militias within the country, that is a lot of the main conflicts. Some of the main tourist attractions within Nigeria involve the national park Okomu. It is a major tourist attraction filled with lots of exotic animals that you can see nowhere else except in Nigeria. Like a lot of the places around the world, they have a lot of national monuments that are protected by the government. And a feature that they hold dear to their hearts is their waterfalls. They are another major tourist attraction that brings in hundreds of thousands of people from around the world to see them.
So we're going to start to talk about the population in Nigeria. As of April 4th, 2017, the United Nations estimated that the current population is 190,479,170, and that is expected to grow at a rate of 2.6% each year. And on the normal curve referred to the right, this is only going to be going up. The United Nations and World Bank also report that the life expectancy for the population of Nigeria is at 53 years. And on the other side of that, the death rate is going down to 12.9 per 1,000 people. This will continue, the population will continue to rise because of this trend, and the curve will show that. The population, as reported as well and visualized through our population pyramid, there is 92,000 males to 89,000 females. 0 to 15 mostly dominates this population due to cultural values of having large and young families. And we're going to expect the pyramid to be normal as we consider the life expectancy to go a little bit more up and the medical advances of the death rate to go down. Finally, the people are divided into many different ethnic groups, as reported earlier in the presentation. There was over 500. However, these top 8 make up the largest sector of Nigeria, with the Hausa pictured right and on top of our chart here, making 25% of the population.
Okay, so now we're going to focus on the geography of Nigeria. Nigeria is an African country located in the northwestern part of the country. Its size in square miles is 356,376 miles. Nigeria has cordial relations with all its neighbors as well as with other countries in the West African sub-region, with most of which it has bilateral agreements. The capital of Nigeria is Abuja, following the top 3 most populated cities in the country, which are Lagos, Kano, and Ibadan. Lagos has 21 million metro area residents and is one of Earth's largest urban areas. Kano has a population of 3,550,000 people, and Ibadan has 3,160,000 people. The climate and physical characteristics vary in different regions of the country. The landscape of Nigeria varies, with mangrove forests and swamps bordering the southern coast and hardwood forests further inland. Mining and crop production as well as livestock are what dominate all of the land use in Nigeria. Wide climatic variations occur in different regions of the country. However, near the coast, the seasons are not that different. Defined humidity is very high during the day and nights are hot. Inland, there are 2 distinct seasons, a wet season from April to October with generally lower temperatures, and a dry season from November to March.
So with the economic profile, what we consider the U.S. dollar here in America, they call the Naira in Nigeria. 1 U.S. dollar equals 314.75 Naira. And the average annual salary in Nigeria is 658,324 Naira. The GDP per capita in Nigeria is 5,638.8 U.S. dollars. So that puts them 21st in the world, which is not last, but it's definitely not towards the top. The services make up 56.1% of that. Industry is 23.6%, and agriculture is 20.3%. Looking at their inflation rate and debt, their total external debt is 11,406.28 million U.S. dollars, and their exports make up 47.8 billion, and their imports is at 39.5 billion, which that makes their annual inflation rate in March of 2017. That made it fall to 17.26%. Poverty and unemployment. National savings of Nigeria GDP is 25.31%. And looking at their population is in absolute poverty, it's at 61%. Then moving to their labor force, that size is around 58.8 million, putting them 11th in the world. So that's a number that is actually more towards the top in global rankings. And their unemployment rate in 2016 was around 13.9%, which is also kind of fairly high. Moving on to their literacy and internet usage, the adult literacy rate in Nigeria is 59.57%, which is, as you can tell, over half of the population, which shows that the adults are fairly literate, but is not the percentage that a lot of other countries have. Their youth literacy rate is 72.79%, which is fairly high, which shows a positive outlook for the youth of Nigeria, showing that they have a lot of success in their schooling and education system there. 30% of Nigerian people have internet access, but out of that 30%, only 6% actually use the internet. Moving on to income and health care, the average amount of income spent on housing is around 30%. So it shows that they can't really buy the fancier style homes basically because of the amount of income that they bring in. The average amount of income spent on food, however, is 73%. That shows that people have a lot more interest in the nutrition and what they put into their bodies, more so over what they put above their head. And moving on to healthcare, a very staggering number here is that only 3% of Nigerian people have access to healthcare. Now that's saying they have access to it. That's saying that 3% only can get it, but not 3% actually have healthcare.
Now transitioning into Hofstede's power distance, Nigeria currently has a power distance index score of an 80 out of 100, and that basically means that parents in Nigeria teach their children obedience. The children respect their parents, they respect their teachers. As you can see with the Guinness example at the bottom corner, it says Pride Power Naija, which translates into Pride Power Nigeria, which shows that the Nigerians like their power. Now we're moving into Hofstede's individualism. Nigeria currently has an individualism score of a 30, which means they lean closer towards collectivism. That just means that Nigerians tend to do more things as a family and as a group than as individuals. As you can see in the noodle example in the corner, the mother is feeding her child some noodles as a family instead of individually. Now with the Hofstede's masculinity, Nigeria currently has a masculinity score of a 60, which tends to be more of a masculine culture. With our research, it showed that the man mostly does the work and the women stay at the house and cook and clean. And as you can see with the radio show example, it shows kind of some more masculine words like confident, unique, etc. Now, moving into Hofstede's Uncertainty Avoidance Index, they currently have a UAI of 55, which is right in the middle, so they're fairly even level of uncertainty. You can see this with the diplomatic example at the bottom of the higher-up Nigerian officer shaking hands with a Nigerian militiaman and showing that they agree on something.
So as we transition into our interview with David, David is now a member of the United States. He moved here when he was 7 years old. So his ability to remember a lot about Nigeria was very strong, and he was able to enlighten us on some of the information about Nigeria that we as Americans don't really get to see every day. First, dealing with equality versus inequality. Men are in control of all the major decisions within the family. The men take a lot of authority when it comes to decisions about children, their schooling, and about potential moves for the family. The women have most of the same opportunities in the workplace. However, that's not the case all over Nigeria, but they do have some opportunities within certain cities. There is a clear distinction between lower and upper class. Basically, if you walk around Nigeria or drive around Nigeria and you look at someone, you will be able to see very clearly whether that person is in the lower or upper class based off the clothes they're wearing. If they're driving, walking, riding a bike, whatever it is, it's a clear distinction. Moving on to individualist versus collectivist societies, Nigeria is made up of a strong collectivist society. They stray away from individual behaviors and individual mindsets. They rely heavily on one another between family support and friend support. And whether members of a family are blood related or not, they consider family people who are around them all the time, spend many days with them and years, and they do call them family whether they are blood related or not. Moving on to roles within the culture, there are a lot of older beliefs that still occur in Nigeria, just like a lot of other countries around the world. There's a heavy belief that men go out and do their jobs and work while the women stay at home and take care of the family, take care of the kids, take care of house chores, so that when the male figure in the home does come home, everything is as it should be. Everything is taken care of, where he can come home and just relax. Moving on to some situational behavior, any uncomfortable situation usually results in violence in Nigeria. They are very quick to judge if the situation does not usually pan out the way it does within their own community. And public shaming occurs, seeing as how community members usually handle most problems. There's a lot of corruption within the police, so they don't rely as much on those police officers to resolve the problem. They like to depend on each other and the opinion of the community members to dictate the result of the conflict that is at hand. Overall, we truly enjoyed this experience learning about Nigeria and the many different facets of their country that are so different from America. David was a pleasure to work with, and he gave us very, very insightful information, and information that we will truly never forget. Thank you.